Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are having a great day. So interesting video today. Today we're going to talk about universal basic income, changes in the perception of universal basic income. And we're going to talk about a question we get asked a lot. If one participates in the Bitcoin MYK universal basic income program, exactly how much do they receive per month, right? What is the floor? What do you get per month? What is it worth, these tokens? Is it worth anything, right? And as you can see by the title of the video, we got numbers out there like $2,400. So let's explain what that means in this video. But first, let's talk about some polls for 2021 about the state of universal basic income, so we can make this make sense. So polls indicate support for basic income increased from 8-1 against 3-1 favor between 2011 and 2021. All right. So let's talk about a little bit where this data comes from, and let's try to understand what happened. So two polls conducted in 2021 both found that a substantial majority of Americans now support universal basic income or some form of guaranteed income. One survey conducted by Data for Progress found that 55% of Americans support UBI, while 39% oppose it. Another survey by Sky Nova found 67% of Americans support UBI, while 20% oppose it. Compare these findings to polls conducted by the Rasmussen reports back in 2011. Rasmussen found that only 11% of Americans supported basic income and 82% opposed it. If we take these polls at face value, they indicate support for UBI has increased by 6 times, and opposition to it has declined by 3/4. If so, the ratio has risen from 8-1 against 3-1 in favor, right? Now, I'm going to just stop right there because we know polls can be skewed. We know people are going to come up with a variety of opinions. But I think many people, from a common sense approach, will walk away and have noticed the rise in the attention of universal basic income as a solution. We've heard it from people, big tech industry leaders. We've heard it all over the place. We've heard it from political figures. We've seen it through some form with stimulus packages against pandemics and so on and so forth, right? So I don't think it's a question that this is real. What we want to talk a little bit about today is what caused it and why I think projects like Bitcoin MYK are going to be so successful in this. So let's look at, if in America we have polls suggesting that 67% of Americans, just in America, are in favor of universal basic income. Globally, I've looked at some polls that suggest, as a global data point, that it's more like 80%. Now think a little bit about this. People in cryptocurrency, people out there who are investing in various cryptocurrencies, losing money every day. They feel like Ponzi schemes. They feel like pyramid schemes. And 1% of the people in cryptocurrency are making money. I'm going to throw out in some more data. 87% of the Bitcoin network is owned by only about 1%. The numbers are ridiculous, right? Cryptocurrency people live in a world of utter delusion, right, for the most part. Not saying that people aren't making a few bucks or making some money, but we can see that the patterns in cryptocurrency greatly follow patterns in our standard economy. We can see how the system works in crypto that is not much different than the standard economy, and oftentimes is worse. So what that means in short is that doesn't seem to be creating a good solution, a good overall balanced solution for most users. And right now, with only about 2 to 3% of people involved in cryptocurrency globally, what it's looking like is that if it doesn't present a significant solution, then I don't see why that 2 or 3% of people who are involved would increase a great deal more than it is now. it can only increase if people are finding solutions, right, that speak to what they need. So let's do another. Let's show you another example, or let's take another point here. So let's break down all the categories that exist in cryptocurrency, whether people are getting involved because they think it's going to provide bank accounts to everybody, or they think everybody's going to be playing games and earning cryptocurrency, whatever it is, right? Everybody's going to be doing social media over cryptocurrency. Everybody's going to be revolting against their governments and not using fiat currencies that are insured by state and municipalities, but instead they're going to opt for cryptocurrency. Whether you believe all those things or what have you, when when you go and ask people the question, do they need to use cryptocurrency? When you ask people how many support cryptocurrency so far, it's only that 3%. Are they going to kick back support numbers like 67%, 80%, like what we get in this universal basic income data? I don't think so. So it almost seemed like a no-brainer for cryptocurrency. If you're going to introduce a project where you want a great deal of participants and involvement and solutions being met, based on this data, it would seem that if I'm offering a person universal basic income cryptocurrencies, guaranteed cryptocurrencies, right? Without any marketing dollars spent, on a shoestring budget, just me coming up with the idea of Bitcoin MYK, we have amassed over 16,000 wallets and accounts. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about the value of an account to networks like Facebook and how much companies spend to get accounts, do you know that some companies spend anywhere from 20 to hundreds of dollars just for one account? And we've been able to manage going up against these behemoths with little to nothing, but just an idea. We've managed to amass 16,000 accounts, and in the future, I can see that being 100 million or a billion accounts, simply because this data all lines up with what we're saying about universal basic income and cryptocurrency. Now, the reason you want to do it on a blockchain, the reason you want to do it in cryptocurrency, because if you think about it, if the idea is really to decentralize a network, you don't want governments to control your money. You want it to be the people's money. And then from that, the people pay the taxes to the municipalities, render to Caesar what's due to Caesar, what is owed. Then you would do this on a blockchain. That's why it's important to do that. But where I think cryptocurrency is getting it wrong, instead of getting behind ideas like this and putting their full force to this, something that I think is really create solutions, they're not doing that. Now, what has caused the change? We're just going to talk about that real quick. And then we're going to talk about how much Bitcoin MYK you should be receiving a month, how it works. Are we talking about currencies? Are we talking about dollars? Are we talking about whatever? So, what's created the changes in this? So, first of all, I think the overall change in people's opinions about universal basic income and why you're hearing so much about it is even before we kind of went into the industrial revolution, as we head into the fourth industrial revolution, there have always been problems in our feudal system like economy between employer and employee. This is the first explanation of it, right? Many people have always been unsatisfied with their work. They felt like slaves on the job, and it has spawned ideas like the Great Resignation, where everybody just said, "Forget it. They don't care anymore. They're just quitting." Right? So you hear that a lot. The Great Resignation, right? What's caused the Great Resignation? Versions of the Great Resignation has existed before then. So the first thing I would say is the very feudal system, like slavery, like approach to definitions of jobs in our job market created the first wave of people being interested in universal basic income. Now, the second wave of it gaining popularity, I would say, and probably the most valid, is automation. Millions upon millions of jobs being automated away. Now, this is where it can become frustrating uh, having discussions about universal basic income, obvious discussions. It is obvious that we see huge rises in um, uh, artificial intelligence, robotics. 10 years ago, Uh, if you told people it's going to be all these driverless cars on the road 20 years ago, if you told people that, they would think you were crazy, right? People would say, oh, no, nobody can drive. A car can't drive itself. A machine's not going to be driving itself. It'd be too much liability, too much insurance issues, blah, 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 blah. But now this is a reality. Everybody's on the road with a driverless car, right? You're seeing, and over the next 5, 10 years, they're just going to be all over the place. And my assumption is that your insurance is going to be higher if you drive a car yourself and not let a computer drive it, right? Of course, they're going to have ways to monitor this. Insurance companies are going to be able to monitor all this. And it's going to be a significant change there, right? This is all obvious stuff. This is no-brainer stuff. This isn't anything to have a philosophical debate about. It is just a disingenuous argument against what we clearly see happening, jobs being taken by robots and automations. You know, and not to insult anybody's intelligence or insult anybody in general. It is just plain stupidity. You are a stupid person if you think this is going to go any other way, right? You just are. So that's happening, folks. What are we doing about it? What should cryptocurrency be doing about it? Well, instead of all these Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, trying to duplicate what we have in our standard economy, trying to put businesses on the blockchain and all this stuff, right? Try to set up that same system that is obsolete now in what we call the robot economy, right? Which is a real term where robots do most of the labor. It doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make logical sense. It's not anything intellectual in that argument that makes any sense, right? And that's just how it is. Now, understanding all of this, what's gotten many Americans to this point, let's talk about some of the solutions we have, like with Bitcoin and MYK. Why you should be using it is absolutely free. You're doing yourself a disservice not to use it, not to support it, not to tell people about it, which you can earn even more cryptocurrency just telling your friends about it, just telling people about it. And if you're a person who believes in UBI, and based on these polls, more likely I'm speaking to a person who believes in UBI, this is what you should be doing. Don't worry about whatever other people are doing. Don't worry about the price of what a cryptocurrency is, because when you get involved in this, right, this is helping you toward the future, right? It's helping everybody toward the future, and it's solving a solution, right? And everything done does contribute. It does matter. What you do on our platform does matter, right? So don't look at what everybody else is doing. They're looking at what you're doing. You're looking at what they're doing. What are you going to do about it? And why should you do something about it? So the next part is, let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin MYK. How is it that it's paying out $2,400 per month? And we're going to talk about a little bit about that right now. All right. So now let's understand intrinsic value, and let's understand where the value of the Bitcoin MYK token comes from in relation to universal basic income, because all this is going to be necessary in understanding how we fund universal basic income. You know, one of the biggest questions you're gonna receive in the idea of giving away what's termed free money is, where do you get the free money, right? So let's give a quick crash course into ways that this is funded, and so that you can understand where the $2,400 per month would come from, and we'll go into that a little bit more detail. But we're looking at classified listing rates on media outlets like the New York Times, right? Newspapers, advertising, so on and so forth, right? I believe it does a circulation of about 3 to 6 million per week. Don't quote me on that, but the numbers are somewhere around that. So in the New York Times, just for the cost per word, look at this, is $5.50 per word, right? I think front page ads, when I did the math last time, I think a line on the front page can run you about something like, when we did the math, it was something like $2,400. It got up to around, for a weekend circulation, anywhere from $150,000 to $1,000,000, right? So we're talking about And let me see here. Let me look at this. The cost of it. Okay. According to New York Times Media Kit, 4-page ads in a nationwide edition ran for about $150,000 before color was added, right? So that's so basically what's happening, right, is the price and the value of what you're going to pay is going to be relational to how the traffic, how much circulation people are viewing. That's going to make it more valuable. Okay. All right. So keep all this in mind. This is very important, and this is going somewhere, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, what's that got to do with universal basic income? I'm not interested in advertising. I just want to change the $2,400 worth of Bitcoin MYK into actual current cryptocurrencies or dollars or something like that, right? Stay with me here. I'm going to show you why this is very important and why it has to work like this and why it makes sense for it to work like this. So here's the thing. Let's get over to Bitcoin MYK. Keep all that in mind, but also keep in mind that when we talk about this new concept in cryptocurrency, which is not really new, the idea of the social token, right? Where you have people like Raoul Powell, who talks about if Disney World, who owns Marvel and all that, they start a social token to where you got entry in their theme parks or got entry to their streaming services and so on and so forth. And you got a social token from Disney that allowed you to get into their theme parks, that allowed you to stream so much content, and say that the Disney World gave you $2,400 worth of those services per month. The value of that token would be relational to that. The value would lie in that because people are spending that kind of money. You could do that much kind of activity with that, right? It's worth that much to people, right? So when we're talking about something like the New York Times doing its own cryptocurrency, if it wanted to do that, it could issue you a cryptocurrency, a New York Times token that allows you to get a full page ad that they would charge somebody's willing to pay $150,000 for, right? Are you with me on that? Okay, right. So, what that would mean then is whatever somebody's willing to pay for a promotion on the New York Times, right? Whatever that is, you're able to now scale that up. Let's say it's a lot less than that. Let's say for a full page ad, it's only $10 or $50, right? If their token allows you to buy $2,500 or $2,400 worth of space, it still is going to value that token at that amount as long as people are paying that much for ad space, even if they were only paying $1 for advertiser space, right? Now that you understand all of that, let's move on to how this is reflective in the Bitcoin MYK example. All right, now sitting here on the BitcoinMYK.com site. So when you get on the Bitcoin MYK site, what you first get is you get a sense of familiarity. Kind of feels like Facebook-ish. You see some advertisements here where people are posting ads or value or so on and so forth. You see this very social media feel where people are making accounts, people are posting videos, people are doing all these various things, right? And in this, you're then posed with the question, what is this worth, right? Is it worth zero? So when you use something like Facebook, Instagram, any of these social media sites, as you probably recall, many of these sites, when you logged on to them, they had no value at all, right? In other words, you paid nothing at all, right? That didn't have any value, but you paid nothing to use them, right? Now, somehow through you paying nothing to use this social network, whether they want to say, well, they collected your data or they sold you something or they showed your app, however you want to say it, however you want to look at that, however you view that, at some point through the process where you directly paid no upfront cost to have access to the network, these platforms became worth trillions of dollars. Now, how did that happen? How could something you paid nothing for be worth so much? And how could you be so valuable to that network? Well, I don't think it's hard for many of us who use social media to understand that, right? So if you understand the idea of data being the oil of the 21st century, and if you understand it. Now, when I say data, I don't mean in the context of selling your data off to some people without the permission of the express user, right? What I'm talking about is using the network effect of so many people being on a network and directing that into advertisers, into a variety of attention value from the community that is valuable to them to the point they're willing to pay a certain amount of money. So let's bring it home now. If you got a Bitcoin MYK token and we're using a freemium service, much like many other social networks you use, that Bitcoin MYK token enables you to create $2,400 worth of advertising space per cryptocurrency. Now, because we control the network, we can control the price within that market. What you have to understand about how cryptocurrencies work, how value works, is whether you can take a Bitcoin and exchange it for $40,000, $50,000, or you can take a XRP and exchange it for 90 cents. That means nothing to us. It's like if you have US dollars and you go down to Mexico, a US dollar means nothing to Mexico unless you can exchange that into a Mexican peso, right? At that point, when you exchange your dollars into the currency of that land, that's when it becomes valuable. Until it does that, it doesn't matter. That's how the Bitcoin MYK ecosystem exists. That's how the UBI exists. The fact you'll be able to take $2,400 worth of advertising space, right, and basically receive that, use it in its intrinsic value, we could do this. Now, for a person who doesn't want to log on the network, for people who, or they do, or maybe the price changes, right? Maybe instead of getting a Bitcoin MYK token, a full token just for logging in for $2,400, now you only get half a Bitcoin MYK token, right? So that creates an arbitrage between the value of the Bitcoin MYK token and what people are receiving through the supply and what they can do on the network. That arbitrage can create what would be a opportunity for some to pay a certain amount of money to get that in other cryptocurrencies and other fiat currencies. Are you following me so far? If not, leave a comment in the comment section and we can talk about that. Now, if you understand all that, if you understand the idea of the social token, how it works, the examples I gave with Disney, then this should be quite simple. That we can supply as many of those $2,400 or a lot of those $2,400 based on how many Bitcoin and YK tokens we have in supply, right? And because we have the network that is ever expansive and it has on this exponential growth curve where we can see it becoming like Facebook, Instagram. Why? Because we share more of the value of the network to you all for free, more so than those networks do, right? Their money, all the money and value with them goes to their board of directors, to their shareholders, so on and so forth. With this, it goes back to you. So from a logical standpoint, it just makes more sense, right? If, let's just ask you the question. Let's say you use Facebook or Instagram, right? And Facebook or Instagram comes to you and say, listen, by using Facebook or Instagram every year, we're going to give you $10,000. Or every month, we're going to give you $2,400. Right? Are you with me so far? Would that be more appealing and incentivized to you to take a check from a company that did that? Or would it be more incentive to you to take nothing from a company that doesn't do that? Right? Just simple logic. It's just a simple way to look at it. I think you know what the answer is, right? That's how it's achieved. Now, a lot of people say, I still don't get it. I can't get out of this $2,400. I can't get out of this Bitcoin MYK token. Well, you have to look at it damn much like how we looked at Bitcoin early on, right? A lot of people got involved in Bitcoin because they knew the future of Bitcoin would produce those scenarios and situations. But waiting till Bitcoin took off would be a mistake, right? Because now you have to buy Bitcoin at $40,000, $50,000 when you could have bought it at a penny, right? If Metcalfe's law is right, which many experts, smarter economists than me believe it is, meaning that the size of a network is relative to the value of a network. the nodes, the endpoints, the personal accounts, all this connectivity. If that is the case, then that would suggest that a growing network would have to be valuable based on the accounts, based on the traffic, so on and so forth. So if you control that much of that cryptocurrency on the network, you're going to be one of the people who benefit from that. Now, the reason we're saying it's $2,400 per month worth of Bitcoin MYK, because really it is, right? You're going to be able to do that much with the cryptocurrency, right? Up until that point. Let's say you're not getting $2,400 worth of advertising benefit. Well, then that means you're going to be able to use the system until you reach that point, right? As we can supply the system, we can supply the attention to you holding the token, right? Up until the point it does that. Now, once that is achieved, the debt has been paid between the Bitcoin MYK token and the attention value get. Think of it like Google AdWords or Google AdSense, right? If on Google AdSense, you participate in paying for so much clicks on the advertising, what does Google AdWords do? They allow you to be in that deal with them or they fulfill that deal until you get set amount of clicks, right? That's the idea of the Bitcoin MYK cryptocurrency, that is going to allow you to have that much attention value until you reach that point. How do you know when you reach that point? Well, one way is when our numbers are on scale or are on par with other networks, right? If you look at something comparable like the New York Times, where the market says for a 3.6 million person circulation, they can charge $150,000 for a full page ad, or they can charge up to $1 million, for it running for a weekend. Then we can simply do the same thing with the Bitcoin MYK token on this ever-growing network everybody owns, right? So I hope that cleared that up. I hope it makes sense to you now. How do you get your money out? That's what the third-party exchanges are for. Now, we don't have anything to do with the exchanges. It's not saying that they're going to want to trade you $2,400 worth of Bitcoin or $2,400 worth of the USD for that money. That's really not our problem or concern, right? Our is to have the value provably there, so that it adds up to the price, that it is able to substantiate the value in the price. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask. At the end of the day, you're getting more value than what you put in, more likely, with this project, as it's totally free. We don't ask you to go buy any of it. What exists in cryptocurrency markets are things that are called speculators, and they take on all the risk to have a certain amount of value and get profits. They're willing to take the risk. You don't have to do that. We're not asking you to do that. Those type people who do that see profit and value in doing that. They want to be speculators, right? And in that case, that can create an opportunity for you to trade it for something else, right? Also, keep in mind with the Bitcoin MYK project, there will be in-store items you can purchase with the Bitcoin MYK. Right now, it's only advertising space, but in the future, we plan to be advertising products, ebooks, clothing, shoes, electronics, so on and so forth. So that's what the future of Bitcoin MYK looks like. That's how the value comes through. If you have any questions, feel free to leave the questions, comments, or concerns on our video. That's all I want to say in this video. Until next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. Don't forget to join Bitcoin MYK today.